Welcome back to another episode on Coffee with Crainer. Today, I have Dr. Maxwell Abraham joining us all the way out in Leamington. He's from the Windsor, Essex area. He grew up here and came back to open up his practice. So we're glad to have him on the show here today. A few things I kind of want to mention about Dr. Abraham is he's an educator at JA Canada. He's also a board member for Erie Shores Healthcare, and he's also the owner of Abraham Orthodontics, and he's also an orthodontist. And recently, he was also awarded the United Way Windsor Essex 40 Leaders Under 40 Award. So it's an absolute pleasure to have him here today. And he's going to talk about how businesses can become community leaders. So thank you for joining me on today's show.
Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
And so I start every show with asking, where's your favorite place to grab a cup of joe out in Leamington?
So our favorite sit down is for sure Lakeside Bakery, which has been a staple in town for so long. And you can't go wrong. Food, desserts, anything you want, it's all there. So yeah, shout out to Lakeside.
Perfect. I'll have to check that out when when restrictions are lifted for sure. But yeah, the main reason we're talking today is Abraham Orthodontics in Leamington has been doing some incredible things for the community, especially during this time. And we're going to be talking about how if you are a business owner and watching, what are some ways that you can become a community champion? So, because that's such an important topic, and it's important that businesses are able to give back and build their community. So I'm glad to have him on the show. And we're going to start with the first question is, how do you define a community champion?
To me, I think the most important part is that you feel that you know something amazing about your community that you feel not everybody else does. And I think naturally Windsor Essex is always regarded as an underdog, when you go outside this area. And, if you have that strong belief that you know what this community has and what this community has to offer, you really just want to stand on any platform that you have, just shout it out and to let people know. Like for example, our practice, we see 60 to 70 families a day. And these are long-standing relationships that we make with everyone. And we know everything about them. We know their families, their family trees, where they work. We're inspired a lot by a lot of the things that they're doing. And when you see it from that lens as a business owner, this whole group of people, especially in a practice that like ours, that's very accessible, where we see people across all socioeconomic backgrounds and all corners of the community, you really build an appreciation for what you have in your backyard. And it's more of how can you not go out there and really try to tell people like, hey, look what my community has to offer.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And what sparked this conversation is I was seeing some great things that your practitioner was doing to help give back. And I kind of wanted to talk about what are some things that Abraham Orthodontics is doing to support the community during COVID-19.
Yeah, so specifically, for our patients, and we've opened this up to pretty much anyone that's currently in orthodontic treatment. It's sort of they're all in a really tricky spot. There's a lot of things that they need to maintain their treatment. So whoever had braces or Invisalign will know the elastics, some wax, the rubber bands, all these supplies, you run out of them after about a month. Yeah. So our team was inspired by one of our colleagues in Cleveland, where outside of our window, we kind of made like a tooth-shaped display of all these different supplies. So we've just been directing a lot of our patients, and we've had many people through word of mouth that aren't patient of ours that we tell them, hey, yeah, if you do need any, wax or mini brushes or anything like that to help keep your treatment staying healthy and to help maintain it or pause it, we're there for them. And then secondly, a little bit more on a larger scale, dentistry itself is a very social profession. Dentists, dental hygienists, assistants, office managers, it's a very tight-knit community, especially in Windsor, Essex. And when you lose that connection with those people, it's a very big change. That's a big part of your social circle that's gone. So, every year we normally would do a in-office seminar for dental professionals, just talking about like orthodontic topics, and it usually would fall around this time of year. And we'd get around 30 to 40 people in, and it'd be a nice evening, nice event. So this year we went all digital. We did it as a digital webinar, and we did it a whole series of it where we've done a couple of these. We're getting 165 people each webinar come together. These are all dental professionals and just talking about different topics. The nicest part about it, though, is when you look at the live stream comments, it's pretty much a big social gathering. People are saying hi to each other, miss you, I haven't seen you in a long time, catching up. So it just shows that, if we could be there, provide that extra, resources and knowledge for people to feel a little bit more sharp when they do get back to work, but also provide that social gathering. And then really finally, which is new for myself, this year I was elected on the board for Erie Shores Healthcare, which used to be Leamington Hospital. And being a part of that organization and watching it just lead in really grappling COVID-19, administration, the staff, physicians, the frontline workers, everybody's just done a spectacular job on really taking care of our community. One of the nicest things is that just a couple of weeks ago, Leamington now has a testing center where there really is no pre-requirement. So there's no questionnaire or anything where you can get tested. So if you feel like you might have been exposed to it or might know someone that has and you want to know for yourself, it's just a walk-in. You could go to the hospital. There's a special testing site and anybody can go and get that. And I think that's a really big service to our community for Leamington, Kingsville, Essex, everybody out in the county.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. You're doing stuff at your business to give back. And then also outside of your business, you're volunteering on a board and you're really putting some of the stuff you've been learning at your business into that board and helping the community. So definitely thank you for that. But so when I looked at your business and I checked out your LinkedIn profile and everything, there's a few things that Abraham Orthodontics is doing that I found is really amazing, especially in the community. And I wanted to touch on that. What are some initiatives your business has taken on to help give back?
So naturally, I'd say about half of our practice is kids, so teenagers, children and whatnot. And again, we're building these lifelong relationships with them. We get to know a lot about them. And, a big part of their lives is their schools. So, we focused, especially initially, a lot of our support and stuff we give in the community to those specific schools and just sort of finding, programs, especially related to STEM or anti-bullying that, might be sort of these side projects that, the principals or certain teachers have always wanted, but never really had the motivation to do so. So, for example, in Harrow, the vice principal there had this idea of having take-home math kits, kind of similar to like the, do you remember like the reading kits you used to get as kids where you'd have the books you take home in your bag and whatnot? So they want to do the same thing with these like little math games that encourages the family to work together, to work on math skills that's disguised as something fun. And so we started that with them for their pilot program for their first grades. And then just this past year, expanded it to second grade. And the plan is to take that, all the way through so that it's just built into their curriculum. So, we try to find things like that we find can really make an impact to not only our patients, but to the whole community. And, that spreads all across Windsor, Essex, and Chatham. And, from there, as you know, from volunteering, it just things.
Just a second here.
You have to find them. I think once you start looking for volunteer opportunities, you just realize that there's so much out there that you could be a part of, and some of it starts to find you. So naturally from there, I became a volunteer with Junior Achievement Canada, which is a national organization that really just has this built-in curriculum that they deliver to grades 5 to grade 12. So, we'll book a half day off of work. We'll go for 3-4 hours into classrooms. The teachers can on their own sign up for this. And we deliver stuff on just leading them on the path to financial success. So we're doing like budgeting activities. We're learning about currency. It's pretty much so much stuff that I wish we had. And you just wish that it was a mandatory part of everyone's curriculum. So it's this great resource. And even now during the virus and stuff going on, they turned all their content digitally where students can now just easily access it through their website. And I really recommend people to check it out because it's just, there's some really, really great information on there.
Yeah, that's awesome. If are you able to touch a bit on the youth room?
Yeah, so so at the Leamington Recreational Complex, there's a space that was being utilized by South Essex Community Council. And we decided to really just take that room on and support it to help them deliver the programs that they do. So the main thing that they run out of there is their newcomer youth program. So kids that are newcomers, so a big majority of them were Syrian refugees, where after school they really just had a place to go. And they had programs and different activities set up for them, where they could really utilize the whole recreational center, as well as other planned stuff where they were putting on plays and shows and different things. So that's a really unique thing and a really unique way of delivering kind of all the best things that our town has to offer to a part of our community that would never even look for it. And I think having that right there for them has just been such an asset. And secondly, the United Way also uses that room for their On Track to Success program. So Leamington has been identified for an area that's at high risk for youth poverty. And, there's a lot of initiatives going on right now to help specifically Leamington kids that are at risk, that have a big potential to really help guide them there. So what they do is that they pair these kids that are identified, in their schools from their teachers and whatnot, and they're paired up with a mentor at a younger age, like through grade school. And they stick with this mentor kind of all through right into where they get to university or college to really help make sure that they're staying on track in order to make sure they're fulfilling that potential. And it happens that a lot of those kids are our patients that we see. And you realize just how much a little bit of help in ways that might seem trivial or might seem too big or might seem, questionable of can it really make a difference? It really does. Especially when you're in a smaller town. I think the influence that we could have on kids or anybody else in certain sectors in our community is probably more magnified than anywhere else.
Yeah, and it seems like you're giving back a lot in the education sector. How come? What are you so passionate about education for?
I think at the end of the day, that's really where the power is. You could. I think that's the one way where universally, no matter who you are or what background you come from, education is really your path to set your own destiny. And we're so lucky to be in just a region where you could really follow that through. We're not trapped by skyrocketing real estate prices or inability to start your business or to get fundraising or to do anything. The doors are really wide open for anyone that wants to. And I think being from Leamington, which I think within Windsor Essex has historically been very multicultural, very diverse. You see the value in how people from different backgrounds, when they're all given an equal opportunity to do what they feel they want to do, just how everything can flourish. Some of the biggest and best businesses and best ideas that come from our region are from people where, without that education or opportunity factor, you wonder where things would have ended up.
Yeah, education is so important, and it's great to see that you're doing numerous of education-based projects to really help the youth and today's emerging leaders to give them that opportunity. So I think that's extremely important, and I'm glad you're taking part in that. We do have a question here. It's kind of a side question. It says, "What inspired you to become a doctor and start a business?"
I've always been interested in dentistry. I know it's weird, but I feel like I knew since I was grade 4, grade 3. A lot of my teachers from back then knew that.
Yeah.
And just something about it. And as I just went along through school, I just realized a lot of the things that I liked in school. So, problem solving, science, math, all just kind of fit dentistry.
Yeah.
And then even more so orthodontics. And, again, not to hammer down the education point, but I think when you find yourself succeeding in something in school and it's in line with your goal, it reinforces that desire to want to do it even more.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And you become really grateful for the teachers that you've had and the people who've helped you come along the way to, again, keep you on track and to make sure that you are fulfilling your goal and doing the best that you can do. And then in terms of starting a business, my parents are entrepreneurs, they're self-employed. I never was really used to a set schedule of business. So I knew for sure that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and have my own business, regardless of where I ended up. And those two things just paired up perfectly. And here we are.
Yeah, and it's so important. And you've definitely done it. You had a vision and a goal, and it's something that you mentioned you were interested in grade 4, which isn't very often that somebody follows their path. Like we're in younger education, and we're always saying, "Oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer," right? And life takes you different ways, but it's great to see that you had a vision and you had a goal, and you just went for it, right? So I hope that answers your question and also inspires anyone watching to just go with what they're passionate about. That's the biggest thing, right? Having something that you love doing is most important, especially if it's a career path.
And I think we take for granted too, like I see a lot of either through our patients or through the work we do in the schools, even as young as, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, how much conviction these kids have of what they want to do. And I think it's important for, anyone who's older than them or who's behind them, whether that's your sibling or your own child or whoever, is to really just embrace that and just, continue to empower them to keep all those doors open and to help guide them towards that and not just brush it off as, oh, they're just, they don't know, they're too young or something. I think especially now in the age that we're at, we have kids right now have more access to information to anything than ever before.
That's exactly it. So I'm glad it answers your question, and it looks like he's very inspired by your story. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
And kind of the last question for today, and we're talking about becoming community champions, how businesses can do that. What are some ways business owners can become champions in their own communities?
I think it's really, the best advice that I got, kind of around when I was still in undergrad and university and starting to come back to the area and volunteer in different capacities. Someone once told me that once you start one thing, it all just snowballs. And, a couple of years will go by and you find yourself at a point where you don't know how you got there, how you actually got involved in all these different things. So I think it's just trying to find what inspires you right now. As a business owner, I think, again, because we see things from just such a different lens of it, it's very easy to be either inspired from, your own customers or your own patients, to find something that's related or quasi-related and just really starting from there. And I think, and again, the big exclamation mark and the big pearl, I think here is that, if you are in these smaller towns out in the county, the amount of impact that you could have could just be tenfold anywhere else. So I know a lot of the work that you do in Amherstburg is just fantastic. And you think of how much of an impact you could have there, even at your age and everything like that. It's huge, just by knocking on a few doors. People would be more than happy. People are so excited to have someone there that believes in their town, that wants to get involved. So that's one thing for sure, especially if you're out in the county. Look at where you're practicing, look where your customer and patient base is, and just reach out, ask your customers, hey, like, what kind of things do you need in this town, or what are some deficiencies that are there, things you'd want to work on? And you'd be surprised to know what you find when you start asking, when you start looking.
Yeah. So that's a great point. Is there anything else that you'd want to share for anyone watching, whether they be entrepreneurs, business owners? Any last things you'd want to share with them? Any advice?
Again, I think the big thing is to the initial goals when you are starting your business or your career, whatever, is to get to this. It's always hovered around a certain metric, whether it's financial or professional designations or whatnot, and that's important and it's great. I think after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, it doesn't become, the grass isn't greener on the other side.
Yeah.
And I think you're always going to be looking for more. And I think this community aspect, and when you really engulf yourself in the area where you are, and you stay involved and you stay a part of the fabric of that community, I think that becomes the most rewarding part of your business. And that's the aspect that gets you up every morning, have your coffee, get to work, and help your customers, help your patients every single day. And everything else around it just falls into place and comes as it should. And the real rewarding part is that, going back to that youth room, Liam, who runs that program for the United Way, after about a year or two, when we initially set it up and did the support room, told me that there's a couple of our patients that were there, and when they were talking with him, they just were so grateful of how we treated their parents when they came into our office, how we were just so understanding of their financial situation, made it work, made the treatment accessible to them. And that's what they took away from the whole thing. So you look at something like that and you just think of how you set an example of just how to carry yourself as a professional and in your community, but at the same time you're able to really give back in so many different levels and just help people in so many different ways, where how could you want to stop that? How could you want to stop volunteering or stop being involved in these initiatives? It's what's going to keep driving you every single day for the rest of your career and for the rest of your business.
Yeah, I think it's such a great point, especially being in small communities like Amherstburg, Leamington, Kingsville, Harrow, right? Being a business owner, you have that opportunity to know your community, right? You have that opportunity to connect with pretty much everyone in the community. Everyone seems to know everybody. And I think that's something that you don't really get anywhere else. So to definitely take advantage of it for sure.
100%.
So we have a last minute question here. Do you think if someone is motivated and inspired, can they be successful no matter what goal they have? It's a good question.
Yeah. Cautiously, optimistically, yes. But I think there's so much more around it, and I think we'd all be foolish to think that luck and timing and circumstances don't play a role. So I think what's more important is that if you are motivated and you're inspired and you don't have that external support system around you, whatever that may be, is to really just reach out and try to create that around you. I think we have a lot of resources in our community. We have a lot of like-minded individuals who inspire me every day, who are part of so many different programs that do just that. So, reaching out to whether it's your educators or just other support people that are currently in your life to try to build that system around you. And then I think the sky's the limit after that.
Yeah. And definitely it's so important to have a goal and a vision, right? You can be motivated, but you have to have something that you can set your mind towards, right? And really focus on. Being motivated and inspired definitely helps, but I think it's important if you have that goal. If I'm not correct. Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
So, Dr. Abraham, I appreciate your time today, and thank you everyone for the great questions and watching. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channel. If you did miss this live stream, you can watch the replay on there. This is also going to be available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So be sure to check that out afterwards and show Abraham Orthodontics some love. Check out their website and all the great things they're doing in the community and how they can help you with your orthodontics in Leamington.
Oh, thanks for the plug.
Absolutely. So I'm glad we answered your question there. And we will see you next time on the Windsor Wednesday show. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Lyndon. Cheers.
Cheers.